Hello and welcome to our IBS Insider Briefing today. We're going to talk about the hidden risks of cyber insurance, basically helping you understand why it's harder than ever to get coverage, keep coverage, and get your claims paid. I'm Margaret Johnson, happy to introduce you to Mike Mullen, the president of IBSRE, who is our resident expert in all things cyber. Mike, please click a button and tell us why we're looking at a picture of 84 kids in the back of the station wagon
And we're
and
going,
how this possibly relates to insurability.
really, that's what I'm supposed to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, look at that. It brings back memories. I'm
It
not that
does
old.
bring back memories. Maybe not to everyone on the call. They may not remember, first of all, station wagons before SUVs, but sitting in the back of a station wagon or the back of a pickup truck, uh, back in the day was just, we didn't think much about it. Piled a bunch of kids in the back of the car and we went to the ice cream shop. The whole back of the station wagon was filled with cars. Today, on the other hand, we have everybody strapped into their specific seat. There's by age, by weight, and now there's laws around all this that say you must have these children in these seats. And they must be um, stabilized properly and installed properly, or we can ticket you. And if there was ever a problem with someone being hurt, um, there'd be the insurance companies would have something to say about whether or not those seats were used properly. So as as we go through life, standards change, safety standards change. We with automobiles, wasn't that long ago. Was a long time ago, but wasn't that long ago. Seatbelts weren't even installed in all cars.
Hmm.
Uh, and we started using seatbelts because they were good for us to use. Um, Same thing's happening with with cybersecurity and cyber insurance wrapped around that. That's what we'll kind of walk and talk about a little bit today. The insurance companies are determining what the standards are. Um, and if you don't live to the standards, you won't have your coverage. So we have to just make sure that what we say and what we do are the same thing. And that's really what we're going to kind of go through in today's seminar or webinar. You may not have heard about this case, a couple years old. Travelers Insurance sued, I think it's International Control Systems. Um, After they had paid on a cyber claim, um, and after they did their research, they found that ICS did not live to the standard that they had said. They had filled out their application, and they said they had used MFA across all of their important applications. And in hindsight, they had not. They used it for some of their applications, but not all their applications. And the court dismissed the case, and rescinded the claim, have the ICS had to give the money back on the claim, and the court eliminated the insurance, and travelers returned the premiums paid on that policy, but they did not have cyber insurance any longer. Um,
Wow. And that's just scary. So what causes a claim against cyber insurance?
if something bad happens, let's say you get ransomed, and they lock up all your systems, there's a cost to restore your systems. We've gone through costs of as little as $25,000 to as much as $400,000 to restore a network and get it back to where it was prior to the breach. That is a recoverable expense, and so once the system's back up and going, you can submit your claim to the insurance company saying that it costs us X amount of money to restore the systems, and in theory, that money less your deductible is what you would get paid for. Um, so it's and then what happens when you report the breach, the insurance company will assign a forensic expert to come in and review the whole event from beginning to end. They'll try to figure out how did it start, where did it come from, onto whose PC in the network, and how did it spread, and who's responsible. Um,
Hmm.
so if a so the first thing the forensics group is going to do is take out your application for the insurance and going to go ensure that the things you said you were doing when you filled out that application and that were still in place the, immediately prior to the breach occurring. So that's their first job, and then they'll go on and figure out kind of the timeline of the rest of the event. So the first thing the forensics group and the insurance company is going to do is come back in and say, okay, show me that you still have this in place. But we know today that we must have a cyber insurance policy. We know the statistics. Everyone is going. It's not if, it's when. All those things. But we need to have a cyber insurance policy, um, and the insurance companies, along with the marketplace, are learning what that is, right? And how we do that, so the insurance company can provide the insurance and still be there to provide the insurance, and that we can have the proper insurance um, to adjudicate that any issues that occur. But any kind of insurance that we might have, we all, as companies, we have all of our business insurance, we have health insurance for our employees, we have auto insurance for our cars, we've got all this insurance. We need to have a cyber insurance plan. And don't believe that it's in your general business policy. There may be a paragraph or two in some minimal amount of money that would be addressed in that in a general policy, but it's nowhere near enough to take care of an event if an event did occur. A little over half, 53% of small and mid-sized businesses were hit by a cyber attack in 2023, so a couple of years ago. And we know that went up a little bit more. I've heard numbers as high as 63% for last year, although I don't know we've got all the statistics in. But we know that it's going up 2 to 5% every year, and so that means everybody at some point is going to see this. And the other piece of that is many, almost half of those businesses that were attacked never really fully recover. It's hard to write a check and go buy a bunch of Bitcoin and pay off a hacker, and it's just not something that we plan for. It's not in our budget. We're not sitting on a bunch of cash waiting to self-insure our cyber event. So we all need to have a cyber insurance policy. We just have to make sure that they work for us at the end of the day. Many people are required to carry a cyber insurance policy because they're regulated. And part of this is, while many people think they're not in a regulated industry, everyone is in a regulated industry today. We're in northern New Jersey, New York area. We have the New York Shield Act. Every business is regulated by the New York Shield Act. In New Jersey, there's a bunch of personal information laws and regulations that just went into effect in January that puts us into a regulated industry. It may not be a series of standards that you must meet, but there are certainly regulations that we must abide by. It's not HIPAA. It's not CMMC if you're dealing with the government. But insurance companies have taken a pretty big hit in the first couple of years of providing cyber insurance. They had no idea what the risk was going to be, and they thought they had mitigated it by charging enough in their premiums to cover those losses. But they were getting killed with these claims. So what does an insurance company do when they're not making money on a policy or a group of policies? They change things, right? They raise their premiums have gone up substantially. I mean, we were seeing 50 to 75% increases in premium costs. They're reducing coverages. They're making sure that the coverages are very specific to the attack, and they're making sure that they're not replacing old equipment with new equipment, and if there's hardware issues involved. But they're very of what yeah, and stringent, mindful of what those coverages might be, and they've tightened their standards. What used to be an 8 to 10 question application is now an 8 to 10 page application, and they get very specific to how do you what applications are you using? What is your EDR? What is your MDR? What is your backup? And how are you doing it? How are you segregating your backup from the network? And they get very specific around those standards.
Yeah, it's almost like they went from early applications where, do you tell people to not click things? Yes, okay,
Yeah,
you're covered. And now you have to almost have a technical expert in order to answer the questions on the application accurately.
you absolutely do. And one of the things that we've heard, and I'm sure it's only a few brokers, but brokers telling potential clients just say yes to all the questions, and we'll get you underwritten, and they will underwrite you. The problem is if you're not doing yes and something happens, the forensic guys are going to find that, and they're going to turn around and say, sorry, you're not covered. So it's important that we be mindful of these things, and that the insurance companies are working, trying to make this a profitable piece of business for them. So what does it mean for us? It's meant higher premiums, lower coverage rates, and certainly more stringent standards, and substantially more scrutiny around a claim. They now know who to hire, and and the information they're going to get from a claimant when they actually go do forensics. The information we can find when the attacker breached the network, how long they were in the network, how they spread the ransomware across the network. All this stuff is pretty easily found by a forensics team, and they can figure out exactly what happened. Start by your application. They always will start with your application.
Now, this is more than ransomware, though, right? I mean,
It's anything. It's somebody lifting information off your network, personal information, and exposing it on the dark web. Maybe no ransom associated with that, but they drop your customer list, and that you've got names, addresses, phone numbers, social security numbers, all that stuff in a spreadsheet, and they'll put that on the web, and
and
sell
try
that
to sell it, right?
that list. That's right.
Yeah.
They'll sell those records. Matter of fact, it's gotten to the point where there are some black hats that end up being entry black hats. All they're doing is getting access to the network, and then they go out to the dark web and they sell that access to other malicious attackers who will buy that access and then go onto that network and see what they can find to steal from you.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people think, oh, yeah, I'm too small of an organization. You and I talk about this all the time. I'm too small.
Yeah,
I'm
I
too
talk about
small.
this with every company in the world thinks they're too small. Yeah.
Yeah. But the reality is that the entry hackers, the people who are looking to actually just breach a network, are emailing everybody under the sun, trying to get them to click a link or do whatever. And they
Yep.
don't care how big the company is. Then they get in and they shop around to see if there's any trouble they can cause.
Right. And they decide how much that company might be worth, right? So let's say I've got 15 computers on my network, 15 employees, 15 computers, and we get ransomed. The ransom company will, if they've been in your network for any period of time, and they probably have been, will know what your bank balances are. They hack around, they figure this stuff out. They know what the company does and how much money they may have around. And so when
Hmm.
they ask for the ransom, they're not going to ask for $5 million if you only got $100,000 in the bank. They'll ask you for 60, knowing you've got it. It doesn't really matter how big or small. What accesses the network is a non-thinking bot that are out running around, and they install that stuff on your machine, and that sends it back to the mothership, who then can figure out what to do with that system and see if there's anything worth taking. At the end of the day, you might be right. You might be too small and have nothing on your network that matters, but the odds of that are pretty slim. There's always something you can steal. To be successful with the claim, you really have to be serious and do your due diligence. And we'll kind of walk through what that means. Remember ICS. They could not demonstrate, they could not show the court that they were actually using MFA on all the appropriate websites that they had access to, all the systems online. So when they could not show, could not prove to the court that they are doing that, the court had no alternative but to deny their claim. Which then vote, and then that voided their coverage because they really couldn't prove that they had MFA. They couldn't
Now, this
prove.
is kind of an interesting thing because we don't know this for sure, but it's possible that when ICS filled out their application, they had MFA on everything,
Yep.
but then 3 months later, they added a new application, or the marketing
Acquired another,
department did something to
yeah,
put it.
acquired a company and never put those people on MFA, all kinds of stuff, ways that you could get new employees come on board and people just forgot the process.
Yeah.
Um, and it doesn't take much. It takes one person to access these things, and the insurance company has, in theory, has the right to say no.
Well, and we are actually, so this is a great point here. We actually have as one of our guests today a broker, insurance broker, and says that MFA is a prerequisite among many insurance carriers, especially premier carriers, to even secure cyber coverage at all.
Yep, yep. And the problem with that is, when I mean, everyone should be using MFA. Microsoft will tell you that 92% of all breaches are started through an email, and that if we have MFA, the odds of that goes down substantially. Not that MFA is perfect, but it's better than the alternative. The problem is you have MFA and everything today. You go out and buy a new HR system, and you don't turn on MFA in that system or some other system that there's ways that you can get out of sync with what you said. And if no one's thinking about, hey, we told the insurance company that we have MFA and everything, we need to turn on MFA. We need to inquire about this new application, make sure they can do MFA, and deploy it and implement it when we do the deployment.
I was involved in an MFA update to a piece of software recently, and part of what happened was multiple emails from people saying, this new sending me a one-time passcode thing is a real pain. I
Mm-hmm.
need you to disable this for me.
Mm-hmm.
And the answer, of course, is no. But
Mm-hmm.
can people, a friendly IT person say, okay, we won't make you do it?
Um, yes, a friendly IT person could do that. It would be wrong, but they could do
Yeah, horribly wrong.
that.
And it would void coverage if it,
That's
right?
correct. That's correct. It has to be, when you deploy these standards, they have to be deployed across everyone. I've had many conversations, particularly with senior executives who maybe aren't the most technologically competent people in the world, are mostly challenged, saying it's just another thing don't understand and I don't want to do. I want this to be easy and simple. Well, um, it's as simple as we can get it while being safe. Um,
Well, and those are the same people who 5 years ago, 10 years ago, had a spreadsheet on the desktop of their computer that contained all their passwords and a backup sticky note stuck to the side of their
I was
monitor.
gonna say,
So,
you still think that still exists today?
well, maybe less.
Underneath, people pick up their keyboards and look at the sticky note underneath their keyboard. They may
Yeah,
hide the sticky note better, but they're still sticky notes.
yeah.
Uh, should be using a password system, but most people still today don't, or they use the same password across multiple sites. And once that password's out, you're in trouble. The insurance companies have come back and they've said, here's the standards of what you must do to be able to have insurance. You must have professional grade firewalls, commercially available firewalls. Use MFA, must be used on all your applications that it's available on. That you have PII protections in place, that you're not storing uh,
Personally
social security numbers,
identifiable information.
social security numbers and those kinds of things on in an undecrypted section of your hard drive. Must be encrypted. It must be encrypted. It's at rest and in transit. Data encryption, that you're keeping your data. You're keeping your data encrypted. That stuff that's sensitive. um, that you have anti-malware on, that you have backups, that your backups are both locally and in the cloud, and separated from the network, so they cannot they can't be attacked by a hacker. Um, you should have an incident recovery plan in place. It's not hard to create an incident recovery plan. People go, oh, what am I going to do? It's not that difficult, but there should be a plan that says, hey, if something happens, this is the first person I call, and then hand it to them. Senior, management and should have a plan in place that they know that everyone knows that who they're going to contact if something bad happens. Strong passwords um, and passwords and not shared passwords across multiple applications. You don't want to have your office password also be your bank password, and you get tricked into filling out your office password online, and now they're going to chase and emptying your checking account or your savings account. Use different passwords, use different strong passwords across all your applications. And making sure one of the things is about employee offboarding is making sure that when you do offboard someone, when someone leaves the organization, that you eliminate their access to the network, you eliminate their access to mail, and that you're ensured that they can't get back on your system, because many problems occur with disgruntled ex-employees. And we should have in place a third-party audit that will then ensure that you stay in compliance and provide you the evidence that you would need if you ever needed to prove that you were staying in compliance. No,
And just for clarification, pen testing is penetration testing.
that's correct.
We're not actually testing writing implements here.
No. So compliance is doing what they insist you do, right? Here you must do these things. Every policy is a little bit different, but most of those questions are on every policy. Compliance is saying, yep, they say you must continue doing these things across your whole portfolio all the time. Uh,
Hmm. Now, hold on. Go back. While you're going back, I'm going to say that Scott has also shared with us that he had a carrier provide a list of things that needed to be fixed before they could get an account covered. And one of the things, or two of the things that were discovered, was that they had outdated browsers and old operating systems running on their network. And so that's something that the average, financial leader or whoever's filling out the insurance application isn't likely going to know.
or
And
think it matters. I think they may know that they're running, in today's environment, they're running, um,
Windows 9 or
server 12 or something that's that has no longer gets security updates and is no longer supported by Microsoft. They they may know that. They may not think it really matters to them. Uh,
hmm
but because you're not getting security updates for those for old systems, they will not ensure that, because they want to have most current updates on your systems at all times. So we talked about, here's what you must do. That compliance means that we're going to do that, and then success is being able to prove that we're in compliance. We can check it all. We can do that kind of self-insured thing and check it all. But those checks aren't really going to be very valuable, in a court of law. You really need to have that third party play. But so success is being able to prove that, and being able to have collected the data and be able to publish that data in a way that would be meaningful for a third party. International Control lost because they couldn't prove that that MFA was used across all their applications. They knew that it wasn't, but they couldn't prove it one way or the other. So when they couldn't prove it, the case just got thrown out, because Travelers in this case was right. I mean, it's like I said, self-assessment is out. Really, it may make you sleep better at night, but it doesn't matter to the insurance company. They're going to want to see it from a third party, and a third party compliance vendor, so you can be able to prove to them and have the proper things automatically checked. You're going to forget these compliance systems check everything every time. So for your plan as you walk away from today would be to learn the new standards, find out what's important, and if you want to have a discussion, we can certainly have a discussion about how these new regulations put up in the states and the federal government affect individuals. If you're a CPA and you don't have a WISP in place, you're putting your livelihood at risk. So there's just things out there that you must be doing that we can certainly help you with, knowing what they are, and then coming up with a plan to fix it. Anytime we do an audit or review, we can show you where the gaps are, figure out how much it costs to fill those gaps, and then make the decision whether or not it makes sense to leave that at risk or to insure against it. You need to establish a plan to test quarterly, just like you would test your backups on a more regular basis than quarterly, but just like you would test your backups, you need to be able to test your cybersecurity implementations technology stack too. Then you want to talk to your broker and get the right coverage, find the right price. You can shop around these things. There are companies going into the business, or also companies going out of the cyber insurance business because it's a tough one. And just remember to read the fine print, and understand what your risks are if that insurance policy is not there. Our suggestion would be that you find an expert. It may be your insurance broker. If you find a good cyber insurance guy, they may be helpful in this thing. Or you can talk to someone like us who can help you look at your application, run a compliance against your system, and show you where the gaps might be, and then show you how you can remain in compliance over time and be able to prove it. So phone number, email address, if you and you certainly have from the invitations have this information. If there's something that you'd like to spend a few minutes talking about it, I'm certainly here to talk about it. It's what we do all day long. We can maybe be able to help you to find the right broker for your business, but we should all be trying to figure out how we can make sure that we have a cyber insurance plan, that the coverage is big enough to make sure that it would allow us to remain in business, and that we can remain in compliance to that plan after we spend our good money on it. So if there's anything you would like to talk about around those things, certainly don't hesitate to call or email.
And of course, we want to invite you to visit the website protectmyit.com, where you'll find information about a variety of different things and also blog posts that discuss some of these matters as well.
Yeah.
So with that, Mike, great job. You fit it all into 30 minutes, which shocked me. And do we have any questions from anyone or any additional information that anyone would like to share? And we do have this question: where should businesses start for a cybersecurity/IT health check in today's business environment? And I think you kind of just answered that, but maybe just
We are willing to give you a point in time checkup of what your status might be. We could run a scan against a few PCs in your business, in your organization. Give that data to a third party. We never see it. Give the data to a third party, and then provide you a report that shows you where your gaps may be, where you're in alignment. In that way, we can help you figure out what exactly you need to do to be able to get to a place where you are insurable.
excellent. And that's something that's done just as a complimentary service to help
Yes.
people
Yep.
understand where they fit. And then I assume that there's also a discussion about what kind of ongoing costs might be involved in keeping compliance.
Yep, absolutely. So it's service we provide as part of my mandate to have to try to protect as many people as I can against these uh, malicious threat actors we have out in the world. It's just not fair. I know how hard it is to run a small and mid-sized business, and to have some kid roll out of bed this morning and say, "I'm going to go steal somebody's money and put somebody out of business," just because they can. It's just wrong. So I'm on this crusade to try to protect as many people as we possibly can. I will give you the data you need to be able to protect your organization. And then it's a conversation. We kind of walk through it. There's a series of questions we ask and kind of talk about where you are. And then there's this audit tool that runs in the background. Takes a couple 3 days to get the results from that tool back from a third party, and then we can go through that report and kind of show you the gaps are and show you what it would cost to fill those gaps. And in today's world, the cost of a good cybersecurity stack is has continues to come down and continues to become more fully featured. So I think you'll find that we can provide a full stack to you for an extremely reasonable price when you look at what the downside of not having it in place would be.
So somebody's asking if we can have a copy of the presentation, and we are going to put the recording up on the YouTube channel. So as soon as we have that done, we'll get that link out to everyone who's here. And hope that'll do the job for you, John. Thanks for the question. I'm seeing, what is a WISP?
Oh, written information security policy. So the IRS has mandated that if you're a CPA that gets a PIN to be able to submit tax returns online, that you must have a written information security plan in place.
Now,
I
isn't
talk,
that true even if they're not a CPA, if they're just somebody preparing taxes, if they've got that?
yeah, yeah, yeah. If you get a PIN, if you're getting an IRS PIN, then you must have this policy in place. So it could be an H&R Block kind of company, but it's for anybody who works for an organization, an individual or works for an organization that submits tax returns online must have a WISP in place. I have talked to
Dozens,
yeah,
hundreds?
dozens, 100 different CPAs, and while some percentage, less than 25%, say they have one in place, most of them say, the IRS is never going to enforce this. Never is a long time. And while they may not enforce it, just randomly check to see if you got one. If something bad was to happen, if somehow somebody got one of your client's tax returns and either submitted something online and stole the return or did something, got their PII and distributed that across the internet, something bad happened. And they came back to you. The first thing the IRS is going to ask you is show me your written information security policy. If you don't have one, they can as much as take away your license and take away your ability. First, they can take away your ability to get a PIN. So I don't know how you do your business if you can't submit online today, but they can actually take away your license. Now, I, like most of these guys, don't believe that's what they would do first thing out of the door. But I do think that if there's it'll become much more stringent as we go through time here, of what their expectations are and how they're going to enforce this.
So, Mike, it seems like the cyber insurance application ties together a whole lot of things that can also be handled as discrete projects, right? Make sure all the operating systems are updated, manage the internal IT systems of an organization, make sure there's an incident response plan. And I think you offer a comprehensive incident response plan, which even has more in it than what's required for cyber, right?
Yep.
And it seems like this just kind of highlights all of that into one thing, but it all becomes part of a bigger picture.
Right, and I think we're moving into a new era. It's not the wild, wild west where all this stuff is going to have restrictions placed around it. There's going to be guardrails, and we need to understand what those guardrails are, use them to the best of our abilities, take advantage of them to the best of our abilities, but understand what the rules and regulations are and stay abreast of those things as they occur so we can continue to remain in compliance. It's just going to be another thing as the operator of a small to mid-sized business that you're going to have some amount of understanding of, and that you're going to have to look for an expert to help you with.
Is there a report we can share the findings with management at the organization as a result of this health check?
Absolutely, there's a report. So basically it would be a conversation with myself or someone else in your organization. They just kind of get a feel for what you've got. What your infrastructure looks like, how many PCs, how you use those PCs, what the infrastructure looks like. And then there's a tool that we run that you install an agent on your machine, and it does an evaluation of dozens and dozens of points of interest that it then gathers that information, sends it off to a third party who consolidates it into a 25, 30 page report showing you all the places where you're in compliance or that there's issues with. And we can walk through that, and I give you that report. We can walk through that report page by page and let you know and what the priorities might be. And then you can prioritize how do you get that stuff fixed, which fixing it, by the way, should be able to lower your premiums. If you don't have it
Huh.
in place, if you answer the answer no, and you then fix it and the answer is second yes, you would hope that that would help you lower your premium cost too.
Kind of like if you put a burglar alarm on your house, you need to
Oh
let
yeah,
your homeowner's policy know, right?
correct, correct.
Cool. Okay, so
But just send me, listen, if you want to have a conversation about this and get it in more detail, send me an email, call me, we can go through it. I think it'll take out of your life, it'd probably take about a half an hour time to gather the information, and maybe another half an hour to distill the information on the back end of it. But I think you come out with a very good understanding of what the risk is within that organization and what can be done to mitigate it.
again, if you'd like to talk about where your business stands and what, if any, assistance you might need, email Mike at mmullen@ibsre.com or give him a call at 973-575-4950. You're also invited to visit the new website, protectmyit.com. Thanks for joining us for today's IBS Insider Briefing.